Welcome back to Super Recaps. I'll show you a drama and a thriller movie today. Margin Call released in 2011. Watch out for spoilers ahead. Everyone knows a great amount of staff is likely to be laid off, thus the atmosphere in an investment bank is tense. The biggest surprise comes in the form of Eric Dale, who is responsible for risk management. He worked there for 19 years but is dismissed because of some fresher talent. He wants to warn them about a model he's been working on before leaving, but they ignore him. Eric is approached by Will Emerson, the head of credit trading, who is maintaining his job, while he picks up his belongings in his office. After Will expresses sympathy, Eric wonders who picked him, and Will admits it was Sarah, making Eric even more unhappy. Eric again wants to get Will to look at his model, but Will declines, saying that it is no longer Eric's problem. Eric receives sympathy from his now former workers, Peter Sullivan, and Seth Bregman as he leaves. When Peter expresses his gratitude for everything Eric has done for him, Eric seizes the opportunity and hands him the pen drive with his model, trying to warn him to be careful. Eric notes that they have already turned off his phone as he leaves the building, so when he sees Chief Risk Management Officer Sarah Robertson arrive, he blames her for placing him in this position. Meanwhile, floor leader Sam Rogers is having a difficult time after receiving a phone call from his doctor informing him that his dog is dying of a tumor. Will returns to check on him and reminds him that 80% of the floor that has been dismissed has already left, so Sam comes out and gives the other 33 employees an inspiring speech, telling them that this is a great chance for them to improve. Except for 2 employees, all the employees go out to celebrate the fact that they will maintain their employment as night falls. Sam goes to visit his dog, while Peter stays in the office to go over the paperwork Eric left him. Although the model is incomplete, Peter completes it, and the conclusion is quite unsatisfying. He wants to contact Eric, but he realizes he doesn't have his phone, so he calls Seth and requests him to bring Will back as quickly as possible since it's quite urgent. When they meet, Peter tells him what he has found. Record volatility levels in mortgage-backed securities have been exceeded, and the debts acquired as a result of the company's over-leveraged investments would bankrupt it. Will decides to call Eric at his residence, but his wife informs him that he has not returned home yet. Will believes he knows where they could find him, so he sends Peter and Seth to Eric's favorite bar's location and instructs them to bring him over while he phones his employer. Sam is upset that he has to return to work at 11 p.m., but he turns up regardless when he realizes it is an emergency. He is shocked by the statistics on the screen, which suggest a terrible future for the firm, and he begs Will to contact Peter instantly. Since giving up immediately on finding Eric, Peter and Seth have been drinking and watching dancers at the bar. As soon as Will phones them, they return to the office and immediately schedule an emergency meeting with Sarah, division head Jared Cohen, and other senior executives. Sarah assures Jared that while they will begin a comprehensive double check of the files, she already knows the material is correct after reviewing Peter's credentials. At 2 a.m., worried, Jared asks Sam how long it would take his staff to clear their books. Sam says it would take them weeks. However, despite the time frame, it is a negative decision since it would destroy the company's reputation. Sarah joins in, stating that calculating the worth of these assets would likewise take a long time for her. Will, Peter, and Seth are ordered to leave the room because the higher UPS are having a difficult discussion. Jared insists on selling everything, which Sam thinks is ridiculous, but Sarah tries to convince him to wait 45 minutes while she thoroughly reviews the facts before making any quick actions. Jared chooses to call their CEO since they are unable to locate a simple solution. Meanwhile, Will, Peter, and Seth head up to the roof to smoke. Will jokes that things are a mess, but that the higher UPS will still preserve the firm because they always try and avoid losing money, even if it means trying to screw everyone else out. A helicopter arrives suddenly, interrupting their conversation. The big guns have returned. Coming back to Sarah, she visits Jared to notify him that all of the information is correct, and Jared criticizes her for not trusting Eric more. After that, everyone prepares for yet another meeting, so Jared offers some guidance to the junior employees. Things are going to become unpleasant, so they must always speak the truth and not try and hide anything. The meeting will be arranged in the middle of the night by company CEO John Tould, and all shareholders will be present. Peter discusses the issue once again, and Jared suggests that they sell everything tonight as a solution. While this is feasible, Sam emphasizes that they would be selling worthless assets via fraud, which would have a bad effect on the company's image and prevent them from selling to these individuals ever again, thereby killing the stock market for years. But John is unconcerned that all he cares about is the company's survival. Because it's 5 a.m., he allows everyone an hour to relax and find Eric before they get started on their plan. After that, John meets with Sam in private to request his support, but Sam remains reluctant. Sarah tells Jared not to mess her over with whatever approach he picks, or she will pull him down with her. Eric's wife phones the company to inform them that her husband has returned home, but he refuses to speak with them. Sam sent Will and Seth to pick him up, warning them not to notify John's family or they will be worried. Meanwhile, John calls Sarah's office to inform her that she would be used as a culprit for the company's overleveraged condition and that she should leave after the fire sale. Sarah informs him that she tried to warn him and Jared about this but was disregarded, but John reminds her that she isn't in a position to fight about it. He does promise to pay her handsomely, at the very least. Will and Seth are waiting for a car in the garage when Jared approaches them, sharing his and John's concern that Sam may not approve the fire sale. He wants to know whether Will step in if Sam fails, but Will avoids the topic by claiming he is certain Sam will do the right thing. Will and Seth arrive at Eric's house a short time later, and Will starts to explain what's going on. He requests Eric to come back just for one day, but Eric declines, only to be met by a strange car. It's John's guys, who don't want any loose ends. Will sends Eric to talk with them, telling him that if he does not accept their offer, they will pursue him for the promised rewards. Seth asks Will whether he'll lose his job on the way back, and Will responds yes. Seth has enough money in his account to last him a few months, but he is concerned about what will happen to ordinary people when he runs into trouble. Will scolds him for such ideas, telling him that if he cares about the ordinary people who get upset at them when they make errors but live happy the rest of the time because of their job, he will not survive in this company. Back at the workplace, John offers Sam a large sum of money in exchange for his support, but Sam repeats that he is committed to the company's future. After that, Peter approaches Sam, who also wants to know whether he will be fired. After this mess, nobody will be saved because Sam said he will probably lose his job. Not anyone knows about you. Peter is also worried if it's the right thing to do. However, Seth also worried about his future job and cried in the bathroom. Seth also shared his feeling with Jared. Jared does not show any response to Seth when they are entering the bathroom. Eric does accept the request to go back to the company for one day because he was afraid about losing his benefits like healthcare etc. Eric then meets Sarah, who apologizes for everything, and clarifies that the warning she received from Eric was passed to John and Jared, but she wasn't taken seriously by them. A few moments later, it is time to get the plan rolling. Under Jared's vigilant gaze, Sam talks to his team and tells them they must sell everything before the day ends. To keep them motivated, the corporation will pay them a $1.4 million incentive for selling 93% of their individual assets. If the floor as a whole sells 93% of the total, that's an additional 1.33 million pieces. Sam also expresses regret for everything, telling them that this is unusual even for someone like him, who has worked for the firm for 34 years, and saying that he is proud of his entire staff and that their abilities have been put to good use. The traders instantly get to work, selling to anybody who will listen. Their counterparties ultimately get concerned about such a rapid sale, so the company begins selling at a substantial loss, but they are able to get rid of the majority of the worthless assets. Jared visits Sam to congratulate him on a job well done and inform him that he must immediately begin sending people home. He also informs him that, as a result of his support for the sale, he will not lose his job, as the higher UPS are pleased with the outcome. This enrages Sam, who rushes over to John, who is peacefully eating lunch as if it were any other day. Sam needs his options free and out since he is done with the company after this disaster, but John needs him to remain there for him for the next 24 months, after which he will happily free him. This is insufficient to clear Sam's anxiety, and John finds his guilt amusing. He believes that this is simply money, a paper that isn't even real. Sam did not want to accept that they had always run a dishonest business, but Sam still agrees to stay since he needs the money more than he agrees with John's thoughts. John expresses his gratitude and informs Peter that he will not only keep his work but will also be promoted. Sam returns to his former residence later that evening to bury his dead dog in the front yard. His ex-wife discovers him there and nearly calls the cops until she realizes who it is and reminds him that he no longer lives there. Because Sam explains that this is the only place his dog belongs, his ex-wife agrees to let him go. Before returning to the house, she informs Sam that their son's company has also suffered significant losses, but that they have avoided going bankrupt.